We generally assume if we cast a ballot every few years and the government stays out of our daily lives, we are free. We picture liberty as the simple absence of direct interference. But that definition feels increasingly hollow when you look at how much of our daily existence is governed by forces we never elected. Your schedule and livelihood might be dictated by opaque workplace algorithms or by the concentrated power of extreme wealth inequality. For the last 2 centuries, the dominant political ideology has been liberalism. Liberalism generally defines freedom as non-interference, the right to be left alone to make your own choices without coercion. But an older, far more radical tradition argues this right to be left alone is a dangerous illusion. It is called Republicanism. If we only measure our freedom by who is actively interfering with us today, we remain entirely blind to the forces that hold the power to control us tomorrow. The North Star of Republican philosophy is a concept called non-domination. Non-domination means living entirely free from the arbitrary power of others, where no single person or entity has the capacity to impose their will upon you without your input. This idea was born in the Roman Republic with thinkers like Cicero, and later revived by the philosophers of Renaissance Italy. This diagram illustrates a paradox. Imagine a slave with a benevolent master who never actively interferes. Under liberalism, this slave is free. But a Republican sees the master's capacity to interfere. The slave will inevitably self-censor to keep the master happy. It does not matter if that master is a king, an untouchable billionaire, or an algorithmic dictator. As long as anyone holds arbitrary power over your life, you are a subject, not a citizen. If true freedom requires eliminating masters entirely, how do you actually engineer a society to achieve that? Throughout history, from the English Civil War to the American Revolution, societies have attempted to build an architecture of liberty, a physical and legal structure deliberately designed to diffuse power. The primary mechanism they developed is the mixed constitution. A mixed constitution is a system of government where power is divided among different classes or branches, ensuring that no single entity can gain absolute control over the others. This fragile separation of powers relies entirely on the absolute, unbending rule of law. It strips authority away from the whims of ambitious leaders and anchors it in written rules that apply equally to everyone. Republican freedom is not a natural state of being. It is a highly engineered, artificial construct that must be meticulously maintained by the people living inside it. But maintaining that structure requires something dangerous, a heavy reliance on civic virtue and the aggressive enforcement of the common good. We saw this play out during the French Revolution. The early Enlightenment hopes of thinkers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who envisioned a society united by a shared civic purpose, quickly spiraled into a mechanized bloodbath. When a government aggressively pursues a singular vision of the Republican general will, it easily mutates into the tyranny of the majority, or the terror of an elitist vanguard convinced they alone know what is best for the public. This descent into chaos terrified the world. By the 19th century, republicanism was largely eclipsed by liberalism, which sought safety by retreating from collective virtue and focusing instead on protecting private property and individual rights. Building a state powerful enough to destroy tyranny runs the constant risk of creating an instrument of terror itself. Fast forward to the present day, we are witnessing an alarming global resurgence of autocratic power, democratic backsliding, and leaders seeking absolute personal rule. In response, classical republicanism is experiencing a powerful revival, shifting from academic lecture halls into the visceral reality of revolutionary practice across the globe. The Nepalese Civil War stands as a stark, modern entry in the historical ledger of Republican revolutions. Through intense struggle, citizens successfully dismantled a centuries-old autocratic monarchy. These images capture the visceral cost of citizens violently shaking off absolute personal power to claim their right to civic equality. The human demand for non-domination remains a potent revolutionary force, completely capable of toppling even the most entrenched modern regimes. Today, thinkers like Philip Pettit, a prominent political philosopher leading the neo-Republican revival, are applying this framework to the invisible, everyday dominations of the 21st century. This diagram visualizes how algorithmic management operates as a new form of arbitrary power. When a central algorithm dictates quotas, schedules, and employment terms without worker input or consent, it exercises the exact same unaccountable control as an ancient master. Similarly, the perverse wealth of global elites increasingly insulates them from democratic accountability, creating a new class of masters who can shape laws and economies without facing the consequences of those decisions. The modern Republican solution is to build a contestatory democracy. Instead of simply voting every few years, citizens must actively challenge, veto, and regulate power in real time. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Freedom is a fragile architecture, and if citizens stop participating, the masters